Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Anchor of the Week, where you don't have to agree with us to be friends with us. If you have, where was I going with that? I don't even know. The intro was new. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Basically, that was our friends Jetson and Josiah.
It was.
Freestyling.
I hope you enjoyed it because they're incredible and it was hilarious.
It was hilarious.
When we initially heard it and then we went, you know what? This has something. And so now we're going to try and introduce different intros from different friends so that they can be a part of it.
It fits the vibe of the podcast.
It does.
If we want you to meet our friends are really funny.
Yeah. And they do things like that. And we want you to be in it, you know,
to
witness
be a part
it.
of it. Yeah. So expect a new freestyle.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should play a game of like we tell you who it is at like the next episode to see if you can guess it.
Some of them will be tricky.
Some will be very tricky.
Knowing what's to come, some of them will be tricky.
Knowing the future.
Knowing the future.
But yeah, guys, honestly, I'm just going to crack at this of being extremely blunt and open. This is our second time trying to film this podcast, this episode.
Yeah.
I think that's why I'm a little bit disoriented right now.
We are a little bit, but it's raw, it's real. Tell them what happened, Courtney.
Basically, we filmed about 10 minutes, right? Which, you know, this isn't going to be a super long episode, so that's almost half an episode. Yeah. And we didn't have the audio. The audio, we realized, like, just did not cut out. There's something wrong with our recording
device.
I was like, recorder seems way too lame.
Yeah, recording device system thingy that we use. It was just, it started out fine. We had, you know, fully charged and everything, and then black screen and nothing.
And we didn't realize until 10 minutes into it.
Yeah.
I feel like we can pick a lot of different things that we've learned in the past 20 minutes.
Honestly though.
I was like, man, we were so funny.
The conversation was flowing so well. Gosh. But hey, this is a good moment though to shout out because as you know, we're in this studio, right? Access Studio. We've done quite a few episodes here because shout out to, I'm going to say it by name, Evan. One of the lads that does his thing here in the studio. We were like, we need help because
we ran out of Sadie walked out of the room.
I ran in panic. No, walked out of the room being like, okay, our device isn't working. It's not charging. It's dead. Like
he also gave us a cable to try to use earlier.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. Yeah, and
wow, this is actually just an Evan fan club.
It is
episode.
Is this now an Evan fan club podcast? Wait a minute. Should we change the name?
Can you imagine? Scrap the new intros.
Scrap the new intros. It's only Evan. No, but yeah, he came in and set us up with the interface that they have here in Access Studio. The cables got us all situated, and now we're recording. So if it sounds different, that's probably why. But it's still going to be amazing, and big shout out to them.
Yeah, that's great. But yeah, so we're going to get back into what we've already been talking about. But here's the thing as well, like with us, and this is the thing that I don't understand if people like, or don't know if people fully understand, right? Is that you and I talk all the time.
Yes.
So the fact that we're jumping into a conversation that we like already started to have is kind of our everyday recording for the podcast.
True.
We talk about things all the time together.
Yeah.
And we've got a few different things that we want to touch on in this episode. Oh, by the way, sorry. Happy New Year, everybody.
Oh yeah, it's 2025. See, we've already done that.
Yeah, we've already done that. We're on to the next thing.
But that's just who we are.
Oh, I don't know if that's good or not.
Yeah.
Should we unpack that?
I was like, add it to the list of things we need to talk about for the episode.
Literally, like, Sadie and I go through our days being like, we should save this for the podcast. We should do this. Yeah. And I think that is why sometimes, like, we come onto the podcast, and the whole idea is, right, like, you don't have to agree with us to be friends with us, and, like, learning to have different points of view with people and to, like, challenge each other's perspectives, and that's the whole thing. But sometimes I realize that we come on, and it seems like we're on, like, the exact same page for everything always.
Right.
Or like,
but it never starts there. No, not never, but it doesn't always start there.
No, like you guys don't see the conversations that Sadie and I have at like, well, I feel
11 p.m.
11 p.m.
I'm like, what was last night? Like 11 p.m. Us making dinner in the kitchen.
Okay, first of all, no, it was not 11 p.m.
No, you're right. It was
like
8.
7. 8? No, maybe 8.
I think it was 8.
It was 8. Yeah, because you had gotten home.
Yeah, exactly.
You were hangry. I literally called you on speakerphone.
That's true.
I said, where are you? And you said, I'm at the corner shop. And I said, come to the kitchen.
And I'm like, I'm literally walking.
You said literally pipe down. Like you didn't say that?
but I said it, that was underneath. That was the subtext that was there. Yeah. But and then, you know, we had a whole conversation in the kitchen about what we were going to talk about today.
The other conversation was at 11 p.m. maybe.
A little later, yeah.
9? I don't know.
We talk a lot.
It does not matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
But it was funny because it was like we had a conversation about the podcast that we were filming today.
Yeah.
But then after that,
okay, but like stop with that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's literally, and I did not have like the best afternoon. Like I just had a lot of kind of like work things, or just my mind was really going. So I got home and was like, I'm just so happy to be home making dinner with my friends.
Yeah.
You know, ironically, it was me and Jetson, and then Sadie comes in. Yeah, we're really friends with each other. Like that's what I'm trying to like.
Yeah.
But you literally, and so I was kind of on my like delirious part of my spectrum at that point. You know, I'd gotten past the like, I'm kind of a little bit irritated.
Yeah.
And you literally at one point turned to me and said, Courtney, I am hangry, and I'm using all of my like.
I don't even remember what I said, but
essentially all of your self-control to not punch me. She didn't actually say that, but I know my friend, and that's essentially what she was saying.
That was where I was at. Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Mad respect for like being able to tell me.
Yeah.
And not like
faking
it.
That's the thing is okay, let me tell you about my day, because my day was at a point where I had worked all morning. And then I went on a little tour of St. Paul's, which was fun. But I was just by myself, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I hadn't really had a conversation with anybody that was, like, just, like, not about, like, being in customer service, you're on, you know? Like, you're talking to customers, whatever. And then I go to the tour, I'm talking to the workers. I'm, like, by myself, really. I do some Christmas shopping after that. But then, of course, all the interactions that I'm having feel almost, like, very professional, performative, whatever.
Interesting.
So then to be able to come home, and I think it was like you just got the end of like, and I hadn't really eaten much that day. That's on me. But yeah, I came home and I was just like, I need to cook dinner. But knowing you and like you and Jetson, like our friend group is good enough that I can say those things and know that you're not going to get offended, you know? But I was at a point where I was like, oh, I've just been like on all day and I need to eat. So
okay. But you said so many things in that one sentence.
Okay.
That I'm like, okay, like, this is what I want to be talking about as well. And I also want people to see into this part of our life.
Yeah.
One, you said you didn't have interactions that were performative.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I did.
Sorry. All your interactions were performative.
Yeah, or professional, right.
Right? And I think, like, if all of our... Sorry, there's also the drip of...
There's a tiny leak.
A little leak. Anyway. Yeah. But okay. The performative, I'm going to snap back into this because I get distracted way too easily in this podcast, if you have not noticed. And I think that is like why it is so hard for people to be real with one another is because you don't know how to be performative. Help me with my double negatives.
No, that's right.
Okay.
You don't not know how to be you don't know how to be real.
Thank you. If I just said it like that, that would have saved us so much time. And I would have sounded a lot smarter. Right? And so then, or maybe you have then these interactions with people and you can't have the ability to be friends with someone and not agree with them because you're just like harsh with each other because everything is just based off performative, right? But the other thing I also want to say is that like, when you said like, oh, because like, you know, like with our friend group, you know, with me, like you could have said it. In that moment, I love you and I am so comfortable with you. I still had to choose not to be offended.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like, and it was not a big deal. Like, it might have been a big deal, but I had a moment where I was like, oh, you choose how you react to this.
True.
Because I could have gotten defensive.
Right.
Or even
and been like, I had a big day too. Like, how dare
yes,
like,
or even more so, I think maybe with this would have been a bit more embarrassed. That I couldn't, like, I didn't read you enough. You know what I mean? Or that, like, oh, like, I should know you well enough to know that, like, at this point, even though, like, I was picking up on things.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I don't know if we talk about that aspect of things enough because we're about like, oh, like don't be defensive, whatever, it's your pride. And yeah, okay, whatever. That's true.
Right.
But even in friendships where you feel safe, I think there's like sometimes that level of embarrassment that you're like
interesting.
And some of it's like I don't want to be seen as this, but it's like, oh, like for me it was like, oh, Courtney, like you know Sadie is like obviously like not in like the best place right now.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't be holding up my phone to your ear as you're in
like,
the
listen
freezer.
to this voice message. I'm just trying to get my frozen chicken out.
I'm just trying to frozen chicken. And I'm like, no. Like, we have to capitalize on our time. And all three of us are in the kitchen together. And we need to talk about the podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, like, yeah. Anyway, so that was that.
Yeah. But I think you and I recently, and then I think what was nice is after that, you know, we laughed about it, whatever. Maybe there were moments, I don't know, that we felt things, but chose not to act on them, right? But
and that's the huge thing.
And I think that's the big thing.
Yeah.
But after that conversation, you know, you and I then had another conversation, completely different.
Completely different.
Not even related to the podcast, where we had a moment of like, we're not seeing things the same. That's a very broad way, very vague way without saying what we were talking about because it's not our business, to be fair, to talk about it on the podcast. Yeah. But it was very much like
it was our business, but it's not your business.
It's not your business. Love you. But yeah.
Hey, something that I've been learning is something like, like, oh, it's not my problem or whatever. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it is your problem, like, especially if you're in leadership, but it's not always your place.
You have talked about this. I remember we chatted about this before.
Yeah. So not my place to say something here.
Exactly.
I can't fix everything and everyone.
Facts. But anyway, you and I had this conversation afterwards, and it was so funny because we were like kind of disagreeing, kind of like, okay, well, this is my perspective of how this situation, and you were like, interesting, this is what I've seen, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And it was a moment of being like, just us realizing that you and I don't always see eye to eye. And it's hard because when we have this podcast, it's like people can watch it. And like you said, like you and I talk all the time out of this. So sometimes you and I get through things, our disagreements, conflicts, but then are able to come on the podcast and talk about it from like in retrospect.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I think everyone should know that it isn't, like you and I aren't always just like, parallel in our views.
No, and I think, of course, like we agree on a lot of things because we have very similar worldviews.
Exactly.
And also personalities. So we have there's a relatability for sure. Mm-hmm. But no, and I think that's a big thing. And I think at the end of, if you want to call it like last season, like the first episodes before our holiday break. Yeah. That was one thing I remember talking to you about was like, I want people to see us disagreeing more. Not that we're going to like pull a conversation on a hat and be like, now let's fight.
Debate. Yeah, exactly.
But it was so funny. Okay, I have to tell the story about Wicked.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so again, Sadie and I are both passionate people. Yeah. And we talk very passionately about things.
And with our hands a lot.
With our hands, okay? And there was one night we were talking, it was us and it was our friends, Carrie and Fede, and their sons. Right, so one is like literally like 5 months old. So he was just doing his thing. Then the other one was sitting beside us, okay? And he's 2. He's just a bit over 2. Yeah. 2 in a couple months. And so we're having this impassioned discussion about, I think it was, movie musicals.
Yes.
Right? And
if movie musicals should cast musical theater performers, or if they should just cast
movie stars,
A-listers, Hollywood actors.
That can sing.
Or sometimes not. You know what I mean? But we were...
See, that's exactly...
It's okay. I'm kidding. But we had this discussion because I can't remember if we had brought up other movie musicals, but even before this, we were talking about La La Land and like
it was
all
just
this.
A lot.
Yeah, but I think we had a moment of disagreeing on
and we're passionate.
Yeah,
and so we're kind of like egging each other on, but it's fun for us. Okay, and like, you know what I mean? Like, we kind of get to the point where like we know that we're gonna like probably agree with each other, but like at this point, let's just have at it a little bit. And literally, the 2-year-olds started to like mimic
our movements.
So he started to like hit on the table like Sadie was, or I was pointing. So he was like, he can't like speak.
No, but he like senses the vibes enough that he's just like and like laughs at us like in our play fighting that we're doing.
And it's like it was like just seeing us. I'm like, okay, that is what we look like. So
probably look crazy.
We look crazy, but that's it. You know what I mean? I'm like, I hope we did not teach him some bad.
Yeah, bad, questionable. Who knows?
But I hope that he learns to fight for what he believes.
Yeah, have fire, have passion, believe in things. You know. Anyway,
that was just a little anecdote because.
But bottom line is, Courtney and I don't always agree. Yeah. But we're still friends, and I think that's beautiful. And the fact that we even have a friendship where we can disagree, and even disagree and talk about it, because there are friendships that people disagree and choose not to talk about the disagreement.
I have some friendships like that.
Yeah. But I also think it's like you need to know the people. You know, like I know there are people that I have in my life who I don't agree on certain things with. And it's like do we need to have that conversation? I think that's the question.
That's the thing. And I think also realizing that not everyone and this is hard for me because I'm such like an all or nothing person where I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to choose to be friends with you, you're going to see every part of me. Yeah. And even if we agree to disagree, there's going to be like a level of intimacy and a level of trust and a level of all this stuff. Yeah. And that's not needed. And unfortunately, I've had to learn that the hard way. Yeah. But I think learning that like every relationship has a certain degree of intimacy and a certain degree, I don't say of trust because like, I don't know. I say that, but I say that with a grain of salt because I don't want it to be taken out of context.
Yeah,
I think.
No, that's fair.
But like, something even happened, and it still sticks in my head. This is like the beginning of when we started to like rebrand the podcast, right?
Okay.
We had a night one night. This was several months ago.
I don't remember, but
oh,
continue.
really? Because
I'll probably remember as you continue talking.
And I'm gonna try to keep it. But essentially, we had a night that the next day we had people over at our house.
Oh yes, okay.
We both kind of shared a few messages, being like, "That was bad," of the way that we disagreed with people.
Yeah.
And for me, I you can talk about it the way that you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
My situation, I think, was realizing that like I can't have this kind of conversation with this person anymore. I used to be able to, but now there's a lack of trust just because of distance and life choices and situations. Yeah. That now having the same sort of disagreeing conversation is actually hurtful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we don't trust each other anymore like we used to.
Interesting.
Like, still would trust this person to, like, if I was,
right,
shot to come to rescue me. Like, you know what I mean? Or, like, you know what I mean? If I forgot something, hey, can you, whatever. But, like, it's different, like, the emotional intimacy. Yeah. And it's, honestly, it's a good thing because it's just how relationships evolve and places we are in life. But it was so strange. It was, like, an out-of-body experience almost to be, like, oh, that's not what this is anymore. So now I have to adjust the expectations for this relationship. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I think that is part of my healing journey, my growth journey as a person. Yeah. And I think I also don't want people to listen to this podcast to be like, okay, well then this is the copy and paste for how to like have every relationship, you know? Because I still want to be able to disagree with that person without like, I don't say hating them as like so like extreme,
yeah,
like
without
being aggressive or without being like fine, right, whatever, it is what it is, right? You know what I mean? Yeah. But actually, okay, we disagree, but that's okay because I've learned with you, like, where it's where it can end to be okay, and like it's okay, you know. Whereas we can disagree. I can be way more vulnerable with you. It's true, you know. Yeah. And we'll get to a different type of agreement. You know. Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, I think it does. Okay. Because so I'm even thinking about my perspective that night. Different conversation, different person, and different relationship. Yeah. I think because it was like me and this person just don't really know each other, but it's like building a friendship, you know. But then there was a disagreement, and not even a disagreement. It was just kind of like I don't know, like just kind of poking at each other a little bit. And I just remember leaving feeling super like angry. And I'm like, why am I angry? You know what I mean? But I like looking back, I'm like, okay, I don't know this person enough to have that kind of conversation, to know that I don't know if I can even be like open enough about like certain things with this person. And I think I'm still like, you know, getting there or whatever. Yeah. Like you're still building a friendship. But yeah, it's interesting. Like the next day we texted about it and we were both just like, because we witnessed both conversations. Yeah. But we were texting like LOL at us having this podcast about being like,
you don't agree with us, be friends with us.
And then we were just like,
someone that didn't agree with me.
like, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, hey, we're still learning as we're doing this, and I think is the beautiful part about this podcast and in this new era that we have is knowing that. Yeah, like you and I are growing in this exact thing, and we want to bring people along to grow in the same thing with us, you know? Yeah, and
that's the thing too. And I love that we're kind of like almost like recalibrating at the beginning of the year, you know? Yeah. Of like, okay, what this podcast is. And like, obviously I want people to see from my point of view because I think that I am right, or else I wouldn't have my point of view. I wouldn't actively choose to see the world a way that I believe is wrong. Right. You know? And I think as well as Christians, and we can talk from like our worldview too, right? Like we believe in truth. And I will say this every 3 episodes, if not every episode on this podcast, the truth to me and to us and what we just believe is the truth. Truth is not relative. You know what I mean? So it's not, okay, we can all coexist with our different opinions and then just be like, okay, but it's fine. You have your opinion and I have my truth. Right. But no, it's like this relentless almost pursuit of truth that allows us to sit in disagreement with one another, but still pursuing like the same goal. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And like, obviously we have, it's just like the safety in our friend group to disagree with one another because we know that we are kind of at the end of the day going towards the same thing. Yeah. And so I think that is the thing that kind of like, because I'm like trying to think, okay, practically, like how do people live this out that are not us? Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I think that is one thing to sort of kind of be aware of. Okay, like are you and your friends like going towards the same goal? And if you have friends where you're not necessarily, you know, or like you have maybe not even friends, but like encounters with people, like you're never going to agree with someone that's like, okay, well, I'm going to Japan. Well, you're going to California. Well, those are kind of close if you go through the Pacific. So I don't know why I chose
New York and Japan. Maybe
New York and
just,
Japan. Let's try that one. Yeah, yeah. My geoguess is paying off. So that's, but you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to make an agreement on which flight to take because we're
going to different places.
You know what I mean? And so I think that's part of like the adjusting of the expectations, you know, or like, okay, like how much are we actually going to agree in this at this point in time?
Yeah.
You know? And so I think that there's so many different like levels of, you don't have to agree with us to be friends with us. Like everyone is so welcome here. You're so welcome to have your thoughts, your opinion. Of course, we would love it if you listen to every episode. We're like, yes, amen. We agree with you. You know what I mean? But if you don't, like, that's chill.
That's also reality. Yeah,
that's reality. You know. But it's like, how much are we expecting to? Like, but I'm not gonna change because you don't agree with me.
Right.
If we're not going to the same place, but if I know that we're going to the same place, and you're like, Courtney, like, don't take that layover, you know, because I've been there before, and I'm going to tell you about my experience at that airport, you know, this is why it's so much better to go this way, you know what I mean? Then we can have a dialogue, you know?
Love that analogy.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah.
It came out of nowhere. That was brilliant.
Literally out of nowhere. So, I don't know.
I think, like, I was going to say something on that, and now I feel like it just, like, went away from my brain. Okay. I mean, I don't know if we want to go down this rabbit hole. But this idea of like us going towards the same goal, yes, cool. Because this goal being, for people who don't know, Jesus is truth. Jesus, we believe that he is, you know, our Lord and Savior, and we're here to do his work and to build his kingdom, right? To give him glory.
That's the goal.
That's the goal, right? So my question is though, maybe this is not a question for you to answer, but just like I think in the open that's in my brain.
I was like, buckle up.
Yeah, is like what happens when you have not what happens, but there will be tension within the same like group of people who want to go towards the same goal.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, I think that is even bigger, especially for us, because this is our life that we live, and like knowing how to even live in that tension.
Yeah.
And because you may have friends, you may have people in your life where you are going towards the same goal, whether you're Christian or not. But knowing that even in that, like you have to be okay with the tension that there are certain things that you are not going to agree on, you know?
100%.
And
and here's the thing, like okay, I had another conversation. This is just, again, we're yappers. We said this. We have many conversations with many people. Okay, I gotta organize my brain before it like fritzes out because I've got so many different things I feel like to say to this. But one, it's you don't have to agree with us to be friends with us.
Yeah.
Okay, that friendship and disagreement can coexist.
Yes.
Friendship is not dependent on agreement.
Correct.
Okay, like and what I mean by that is like you have to agree with my opinion, my point of view, my decisions, all of that. One, like they're not dependent on one another. Two, like disagreeing with someone does not make you someone's enemy.
No. Yeah.
And I had a conversation with someone, and they were like, "Okay, but how do I do this? How do I say this? Whatever, without painting this person like as my enemy."
Yeah.
And I went, whoa. Like literally, I said. Like something within me almost like rage because I was like, but like what I feel was like a holy anger almost.
Yeah.
Because I was like, does this person love Jesus? Yes. Do you think that they are like trying their best with what they know how?
Yeah.
Like with their purest intention to further the kingdom of God? They said yes. I said then that person cannot be your enemy.
No.
Point blank.
Yeah.
Everything else you can have opinions on, you can have disagreements with, but they cannot be your enemy. And I feel like that is what the actual enemy tries to do is like flip it.
Literally.
Right?
Literally.
And I'm like, how many times are we walking around like how many times have I walked around where it's like subconsciously I'm not going, you're my enemy.
Right.
But I treat you like that or I view you like that because you're what I perceive as being against me. But how do we, differentiate the two? We might not be necessarily on the same page.
Right.
But we're going the same way.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're not my enemy, and we can figure it out. And it might take one conversation. It might take 3 years.
Right.
I hope it doesn't take 3 years.
Yeah, and I think like I think that's been on my mind a lot recently, especially because I mean we're called to love people.
Yes. Like
like Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself. You know, and I'm like, cool, love that, yeah, love that. But you know, like in our like humanistic brains, we're like, oh, but like this person lives this way or thinks this way and that's not right, you know, but you're like again, it's only my perception of what's right. If we know, like, if I know the truth, and even if that person doesn't know the truth, like if that person is not a Christian, I know that they are still a child of God. Like if we want to go down that route of like, I'm called to love everybody, you know? Yeah. And in that love, like that's the love that will, I think, help people see themselves, see others better, you know? Like, and so it is so easy for me to be, and not even me just, but like I think as humans to just have this mindset of, and you know, gosh, cancel culture, like all this stuff.
I was
right? Like
about
if we
to
want,
say
I was like,
that.
if we want to go to, we don't have time for that.
I'm so glad you said that.
But yeah, the idea of like we think if you do anything, think anything, say anything that is not quote unquote right by me, then you're canceled. You're done. You're gone. You should be dead. Like all these things, crazy things that people say.
Or maybe someone does say something that is objectively, morally across the board.
Yeah.
Like frowned upon. And like, okay, I'm not saying anything like major.
Right.
I mean, okay, yeah, that sentence, okay. Even beyond politically correct, like, yeah, you should not have said that. Or that was not loving. And any human could say that.
Yeah.
Why do we think that punishing somebody is going to change them?
Right.
Punishment has never changed.
No.
Like,
no. Yeah.
Love transforms.
Yeah, literally.
Punishment might teach you a lesson, but it's not going to actually transform you.
Exactly.
I don't want, whatever, sorry. That's my other
thing that
I don't think we should.
I was like, we could go, I was like, I feel like we're like on a path, and then there's like 5 different paths that we could go down, and I'm like,
forest right now.
Literally, I'm like, we have to be careful.
But this was another conversation I had with somebody else. Okay, guys, we have so many friends to introduce you to.
So many friends.
But we were talking about this and about how like when you're frustrated with someone that you love because you want them to like be better because you could see the potential.
Yeah.
What usually, or for me, what has not changed me is people have been like, well, you did that again. You messed up. You did that. It's been like, hey, I see you. I know you're not going through a great time right now, but I see what you can be. And you are this, you are that. It's the encouragement that actually like inspired me to want to mature and grow. Not the being like, hey, you didn't do that again.
Yeah.
Or you did that and that's not really mature.
Right.
It's like, oh shoot, yeah, you're right. Oh no. And then I put
all
my defense mechanism.
That thing is, it's already so easy for us to go into shame and like self-condemnation around anything, you know? So to have other people on the outside also putting that on you is like not helping.
Not at all.
Anyone. Yeah. Man.
But yeah.
I think we both were just like, and rant over. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that was so good. Anyway.
Napping over. But yeah.
That's not where I thought this podcast was
honestly no, but I think it's great and it's needed. And I think as we continue on like this journey of this podcast being a safe place, because we want it to be a place where if you don't agree with,
how do you feel about that word safe place?
Oh gosh, I mean, do we really want to talk about like safe place? I think it's just one of those buzzwords of this.
Okay. Like
generation.
We mean it in its most like generic form.
Exactly. Like in the sense that if you don't agree with us, please come sit with us. Tell us. Like we want to have those conversations, and not from a place of I want to change your mind, but from a place of listening and curiosity and love, you know?
Yeah.
And that's...
If my flight's to Japan, baby, I'm going to Japan.
Right.
I don't want to go to New York.
And if my flight's to New York, I'm going to go to New York. But I need to root for you in your path. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think we lost the analogy. It's done.
Yeah.
We're done. We're done with the flying. We're in London. Like we're not going anywhere.
I don't know. Like I would love to go to Japan and New York.
Actually, yeah, one day, yeah. Anyway, but I don't know. I feel like do you have any other final thoughts? I'm thinking.
No,
like,
I think this is good, and I think for me and the conversations that we had the end of last year was very much so like I want to make sure that we like that people see the real us, and I think even just being honest with people, like the last episode that we did, we both watched it and almost got a little bit like emotional because we were like, this is it. Like we were just very open with one another, very comfortable, and having the real conversation, but not getting so heavy in it as well. Like I think that's us, you know, of being able to. That is us, you know, that we can just look like we are fighting for our life talking about movie musicals. And then have a little giggle.
Have a giggle afterwards.
Yeah, it's fine. And then talking about like the meaning of truth and everything, and then having a giggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm really excited.
Same.
And going into the new year, I think a lot of aspirations, a lot of I mean, not to like rehash our last episode. But very much being like, okay, like I believe that God's doing something new. I believe he's doing something new with the podcast too. And guys, like if you are listening to this and you are headed the same direction of us and you also love Jesus, honestly, you have no idea I'm gonna do this, but like pray for us.
Yeah.
Pray for this podcast because
Honestly.
like it is a ministry, and obviously we do this out of our honestly just a passion. It's not just a passion project, but it's like an actual passion to use the gift of communication and different aspects of performance to not only just speak truth to people, but to be able to connect with people. And like we really feel like we're at the beginning of something, and it's so hard, especially for me who's been a part of this for many years now. Like it's very like humbling to say that I still feel like we're at the beginning, because I feel like the beginning is longer than I want it to be, you know.
Yeah,
sometimes that's don't despise the days of small beginnings, and I got through the days of small beginnings will be like the first year, and then we're on to like the less small beginnings, you know. And it is true, we've grown a lot and done a lot, but I don't know, I'm just very excited for what the future holds for the podcast, and how God wants to use it. And so this is my bold, hey guys, pray for this as a ministry to impact people,
honestly,
and that it goes obviously not just this, but I think it's the human actual connections that we make with people too that have been really awesome.
Exactly.
Testimonies with that, and that's my little piece.
No, I love that. I agree 100%. Like I think you and I both have a lot of vision for this podcast, but we want to make sure that we're doing it not just for us and not just for
it's always a temptation.
It's always a temptation. And that's with anything, exactly, to put yourself at the center of it. And it is hard when we're hosting, when we're having the conversations, but
and we're ambitious people.
And we are,
which is, I think, I mean,
sometimes
it's from God.
But it can also, you know, swing in the opposite direction. But so we're excited, and we're excited to see what God does with this and moving forward. And I hope that you're willing to stay with us for this journey, and invite your friends to come along on the journey. Because we want to be able to connect and to have these conversations with anybody and everybody. Exactly. I'm saying that. I don't know if that's how you feel. I'm like, anybody and everybody, please.
Come on.
Like,
come
we
on
want
this
to have
way.
this. But
that's amazing. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Our first episode back. Hopefully you didn't miss us too much in our time away.
Just a few weeks.
Did you agree with it? Did you not agree with it? It doesn't matter, because you're still our friend. So
yes, you are.
Yeah.
I love every time we do that. The aggressive point. You're our friend.
This is why Ezekiel, the 2-year-old,
does
like,
because
we're just constantly like this. Which, if you're listening on Spotify, it's aggressive pointing towards the camera, per usual, like last episode. But thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah.
You know how to stay connected, and we'll see you real soon.